So that's right, it is demo time. Okay, so demo time. Am I on schedule? I am on schedule. Yay. Okay. So the first dare I'm going to demonstrate to you guys is a classic warm-up. Okay, I don't have an easel or a person here to help me hold it. And Rory, can you hold this? Rory, can you come over? Can you come over here and hold? Oh, he's a cat. Okay, so I'm gonna try to do my best to like prop it up like this. Okay, now for this warm-up, it's ambidextrous drawing. So that means that you draw with both of your hands. And actually, this is something that is fun to also help strengthen your non-dominant hand, because if you're like me and you sort of use your dominant hand too much for work and projects, and it's getting like a little spent, it's good to just start doing activities with your non-dominant hand, things like cleaning or lifting. So I've been turning this one into more like the manual labor hand, so I don't have to use my delicate drawing hand for that as much. Oh no, Rory's being all crazy over there. Cats. Okay, so ambidextrous drawing, it's sort of uncomfortable. Because when you're drawing with your non-dominant hand, it's like activating part of your brain that's not used to drawing. It's like, what is going on? And so I find it sort of jolts your brain awake. And so, yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to draw with both hands. So you can pull out a piece of paper. If you're drawing on a table with a loose sheet of paper, I would put a piece of tape at the top just to hold it, because if you're drawing with both hands, you can't hold down the paper with one hand. So we're going to go from the top. I'm going to go from the top of the page to the bottom of the page. And this is going to be extra challenging because it's going to be symmetrical. So symmetrical means that it's the same on both sides. So this is like a double brain concentration challenge, and it's gonna look bad. Mine might not look too bad just because I've done this a lot. But yeah, it reminds you that your dominant hand is really awesome, because it also shows that you are trainable. So your left hand could be better if you actually built up that muscle memory more. Anyway, I'm getting too talky. Okay. Propping this up on my knees. So I'm going to start at the top and go to the bottom and just make 2 lines. And I'm just going to go sort of all over the place. Maybe different shapes. Is it it's abstract art. I always feel that it's like, but the pens are like ice skating on the paper. So I'm trying to let my brain relax just a little bit to like breathe into it. So you can try a couple lines just going from top to bottom, just, playing around. But then for another one, I'm going to try to do a picture. So something that actually is symmetrical. So it could be a tree, it could be a face, it could be like an insect. I guess I'll do a butterfly, because I feel like butterfly is pretty cool. The trick is it's harder to get it back in place if you pick your pen up. So if you can do a continuous line drawing, that's a lot easier. So I'm gonna try my best. Let's see. I'm gonna draw a little body. Okay, yeah, you guys see me. Whoa. Oh, it's kind of a it's a butterfly. Actually, when I've done workshops, people come up with like some really fun things. Now it looks like a carrot. Oh, it's fine. It's art. Yeah, so this will make you feel extra grateful to your dominant hand that it does a pretty good job. Okay, so that's a good warm-up. Next drawing dare. The next drawing dare I would like to share is, the Unwind Dare. Now this one I did live at the book launch party at the bridge. And so Larkin is sharing a video of that in case you want to see it. And it's actually of me drawing this. It's very meta. So the countdown, this is a countdown dare, the Unwind Dare. I designed this dare to help you loosen up, because I always felt like that was a criticism that I've heard in the past, or I've given students in the past, when you're like so intense and the art just looks a little tense. You're like, we need to loosen you up a bit. But how do you do that? So I find that one thing that helps me loosen up is speed and also repetition. Because if you draw something more than once, then it means that you are remembering the more visual data from one drawing to the next to the next. So it means that you have sort of a mental picture of what you're drawing better than when you first started. So that means you can sort of trust your instinct a little bit more. So maybe spending less time having to look at the object because you can you got the general feel of it. It's because also loosening up is about drawing more the feeling of it than maybe getting all the accurate details. So for example, this is the first time I drew this pendant, and then this was the last time. So obviously it's a lot looser, but also I've lost a lot of details. So when you're forced to draw quickly and repeat, I think it's really interesting what happens in your brain, because I find that then I have it memorized. So then it's easier to draw it simpler, because it's hard to draw something simple. It's hard to boil it down. And also when you draw fast, you sort of outrun your critic. And so I have less time to sort of question myself and be like, well, I don't know about that. And just like, no, just go, just keep drawing. So what we're gonna do is basically, I'm gonna draw an object once and time it, which is, how I started here, like, oh, I drew this pendant. But then you cut the time in half and you set a timer, you draw it again. Then you cut the time in half again and draw it again. Then you cut the time in half again and draw it again. So you don't have to fit any specific time other than just how long it takes you naturally to draw something. Let's see, I'm gonna make sure. Actually, I haven't clicked over to Facebook. Okay, I haven't had my Facebook window open because I was scared about activating the sound, but that looks, I'm just checking it real quick. Oh, it's hard when you're by yourself to live stream and hope that it's actually going out on all these screens. Okay, so for my live Unwind Dare, let's see, I got my easel. I'm gonna set myself a timer. Okay, now I've chosen to draw. Okay, that's all right. And kind of note to self, get an easel. Okay, I'm going to draw this piggy bank as my sample object. Hello, internet. He doesn't have a name. And so for this exercise, it's good to have something that's handheld. You don't want to try to draw like an entire tree or something that's like really complicated. So something that you can hold in your hand is good for this exercise. And let's see. So for this, okay, I'm going to draw this piggy 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Normally I would use a pencil and sort of sketch a circle in each spot as a landing pad for my drawing, but I forgot my pencil. So you just saw me, I drew imaginary pencil. Don't you see it? I see it. Okay, so now I'm setting my timer and I'm just going to draw this little pig. Okay, I'm gonna hold my easel while I'm holding. God, sometimes you need an artner. Okay. and start. Okay, so I'm gonna draw this little piggy. Okay, normally I'd do a pencil sketch, but I didn't grab one, so I'm just gonna, oh, aw, well. Okay, he's pretty proportional. Okay, okay. So drawing his little face. So I'm like going along and drawing all these little, I'm sort of tracing over with my eye what I can see, and then tracing, copying that on the paper. Little snout. Oh. Okay, I'm being pretty slow, pretty thoughtful. Okay, so he's got this little ridge, he's got a little shirt. And actually, I'm noticing that it's kind of easier to draw an object if it's drawing it like the same size. Because then it's like I'm just moving visual data from here, there, each line. So it's pretty easy. I'm just taking my time, and I'll draw my hand. Okay, he's a little thicker, but that's fine. I was just out at the White Pig this weekend, which is a local animal sanctuary. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 10. Oh, okay. I made him. He's a little. This is a quarantine little piggy who's not getting out as much. Oh. Got a little thing there, little thing there. And okay, he's a little pig. Ta-da! It's a little pig. Okay, so that took me 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Okay, so half of that is like 1 minute 20 seconds. Okay, so I'm gonna start 1 minute 20 seconds. Oh, that's really fast. Okay, I'm starting my timer. So I'm gonna draw a piggy here in 1 minute and 20 seconds. Oh God. Oh God. Okay, and I can't see it. So I'm gonna, ideally someone would tell me a heads up of 58. Okay. His arms look like little hot dogs. Oh no. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant they look like little pigs in a blanket. Oh God. What do they do? I'm a vegetarian, y'all. 30 seconds. So I'm still looking back and forth a lot. To copy. Oh, 18 seconds. He doesn't have a face. Oh, little piggy. I'm sorry. Your snout has more personality than that. Stripes. Oh God. Okay, cancel. Stop. Okay. So here's piggy number 2. Actually, piggy number 2 looks pretty good. I've lost little details here, but I think the line work actually looks a lot better. Okay, so now I'm gonna cut that time in half. So 40 seconds. 40 seconds. Ah! Okay, so I'm gonna draw a little piggy here. 40 seconds. Partner countdown. It's the final countdown. Okay, I'm gonna, pardon me. Okay, so I'm gonna draw. This is live. Okay, 40 seconds. Go. Okay, so I definitely have more memorized. Oh God. 16 seconds. Ah. Oh, shoot. Ah. Oh, God. Okay. So he got a little taller. He's getting taller, apparently. So that was the 40-second version. It's gotten elongated. Okay, now I have 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Okay. So for this one, I'm actually just gonna put him over here and just kind of, because I can't really have time to look back and forth and hold this. So I'm just going. Okay, so 20 seconds. Actually, I'm switching pens because this one is dying. Okay, 20 seconds. Sorry. Oh, I didn't start it, but I think that was 20 seconds. Shoot, I did miss the climactic. Well, now I don't know if that was 20 seconds. Oh, yeah, I got the idea. Let's say, yeah, 20 seconds, yay! Oh, yeah, and hooray! We did it! Oh, that looks nice. Oh. Sparkle, sparkles! Okay. Well, thank you for joining me for this demonstration. So we got the first version, second, third, fourth. So we definitely got the difference between the first one and the fourth one is pretty big. I feel like he's definitely got a lot more he's got a lot of personality. There's a definite lightness when you have to draw fast, because then you, especially if you've drawn it multiple times, then you sort of can trust your muscle memory and draw more of your mental picture of it. Okay, so the Unwind Dare. Now I got to keep going. Larkin is going to share a link to the Darker Dare lesson, which is in the book about drawing your matter. So you can check the Facebook feed for that. Next. Oh, where is my... Aha, okay, my cards got out of order. Okay, next dare I want to share is the Feeling Dare. No, wait, actually, it's the... now I'm going to share 3 activities to do by yourself and a few variations of things to do with partners. So, no more demos. Sorry for you, but easier for me because also I'm not really set up for demos. So the first dare I'm going to share is called the Inner Critic Dare. Does anybody out there have an inner critic? I bet you do. It's that little voice in your head that tells you that you suck. It's also, sometimes I call it the matter. Sometimes people call it the fraud police. That's another version. I feel like it has a lot of names. If you've ever had like a mean teacher, you know, like someone who's been critical of you, sometimes they are that voice in your head. So Mona I draw it in Mona as the record player, which I should have marked, but I didn't. It's this sort of record player telling her all these like loud things in her head. In this activity, I like it because it is more word art than technical drawing. So it's less about being the best artist and more about journaling, actually. So for this activity, you start off by making 2 lists. So one side are all the put downs that your inner critic tells you. And I would write these as you statements, because when I feel like my critic is talking to me, they're saying like, you can't do that. And then, so for example, it's like, you know, who do you think you are? Or you can't do it, or you're selfish, or you should give up, or blah, 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 you. But then you do a second list of like sort of flipping them almost like a hollow back situation. And I call these the pep talks. So these are more I statements. So it's like, I've got this, like, I have something to say, like, you know, I. And so I feel like I might not believe all the stuff in the pep talk column, but I can't erase what my critic says. But what I can do is I can sort of talk over them. I can reprogram. So first I'll start off by just journaling 2 lists. And when I've done this exercise with students before, it's always interesting that the girls have really long lists. The boys generally don't have a lot on their inner critic list. So I don't know if that means that the girls have more, are just absorbing more negativity and internalizing it, or they're just more in tune with what they're thinking inside their head. So I don't know, it's just an observation. So then what you're gonna do is draw speech bubbles, or you could draw it, you know, and draw like a shape of your head, like one of those old style silhouette portraits, and then fill the inside with text, but putting in there the content of what your critic is saying, all the put downs, like that you are terrible, why are you? But I wrote it with light colored pencils, because then what you're going to do is draw on top of it, do some layering with darker colors of what your pep talk is saying. So my critic, he still has like the speech bubbles in there, but now they're harder to see because I'm like visually yelling over it with the more positive statements. And then I sort of, I don't know, just to make it more artistic, I actually went in and then sort of created shading around the top layer so it really sort of came forward in the picture. And here's another version of it, because I've done this at like workshops a bunch of times. But see, on the screen, you can probably only see the positive and you can't even notice the stuff that is in the background. But I've seen people be really creative with this, like, you know, do it as like a brain. So it's because really it's a visual representation of the stuff that's going on in your mind. So, yeah. So I feel like it's good to, shine a light on your inner critic. This is how I drew it in a sample page for Sketchbook Dares, like an old version. So here's like my genius shining a light on my critic, who's just like, hey, you know, who do you think you are? Like this guy is just like, you suck. Yeah, so my peanut gallery. But yeah, if you shine a light on what they're saying, then you might realize like, oh, that's not right. Okay, the next activity to share is the breakthrough dare. Breakthrough. This one is about getting through the 80% wall. The 80% wall is something that I just noticed that artists hit when they're about 80% into a project where it's almost done, but you just don't quite know how to finish it, or maybe you get bored with it, and then you abandon it because you got a shiny new idea and you're like, oh, I'd rather do this instead. And then you just don't finish it. And then you end up with a pile of 80% done projects. And so I want to design an activity to help overcome that because it's a really big common problem. And so I noticed that part of what made me hit that wall is because I would be so emotionally attached to my original like idea in my head. And so if the art didn't quite match what my original idea was, I'd feel sort of let down, like, oh, in my head, you were so much better. You're such a disappointment. But I would be so scared I would be so scared of, oh shoot, I'm like totally, okay, what am I trying to thought? I would be scared to mess it up. And so I would almost rather abandon it than actually take a risk of messing it up. So really it's about risk. When you hit that wall, it's because you are scared. And your fear is getting in the way of hearing what you really want to do, because your little genius is there whispering in your ear like, oh, you should try this, but you can't hear it because that fear is like, don't mess it up. So for this dare, I challenge you to draw something that you're not as emotionally attached to. Because when you're really emotionally attached to it, like, oh, I'm drawing a picture of my mom, I want it to really look like her because it's going to mean a lot. And you're like, oh, it's got to be perfect. But for this, draw something you don't like, and then it's easier to practice taking risks with it. So I dare you to make a list of food you don't like, because we don't need to be like channeling negativity on other human beings right now. People got enough. But food, you know, we can play with food. So make a list of the food you don't like, then pick the most visually interesting one and do a portrait of it. So I picked licorice because I really don't like licorice. I don't get it, but it's really pretty. So for this exercise, draw a portrait of your food. And when you're sort of at that 80% wall where you're sort of like, oh, it's pretty good, maybe it's done, I don't know, go take a walk. Here's my little 4-part diagram. So that's when I'll take a break, walk it off, and I'll actually use anger to help me quiet the fears. I'll be like, oh, this artwork's just terrible. Like, oh, in my head, it was so good. And when I come back to it, I was like, well, it's so ruined anyway. We might as well try blank. Rory, no, don't get in there. No. He's going to attack my streamers. Oh, bad boy. Because I also, at this point, will do what I call re-see. Re-see is when I come back and look at my art with fresh eyes after taking a break, walking away from it, and try to look at it again as just pure visual data, something that I'm not emotionally attached to, something that I'm like, well, I've put so many hours into this. So I try to trick myself to like see it fresh. And so to re-see is when you look at it from far away, so like across the room, or if you look at it in a mirror so it's backwards, or if you look at it upside down, or if you take a photo of it and look at the photo, or if you squint your eyes, because, you know, you see artists do that. They're like, ooh. So these are ways that you can like trick yourself to re-see what you're working on. And then normally I'll get some zany idea. Like what I did with this one was I added a banner onto it. So I basically like added, and it says, you make me want to barf. You know, so I put in a joke because a risk, it could be anything from like changing a background, taking out an element, adding an element, you know, layering something else on top of it. Okay, this cat, you are driving me crazy. Okay, so that is the breakthrough dare. The next one is the feeling dare. I'm going to go through real fast because now I'm like running out of time. So I'm going to go through the next cluster really quickly. So the feeling dare is when you draw a portrait of your eyes and you're picking shapes and designs to reflect different emotions. So first you think about what emotion you'd like to illustrate, and then create different designs and shapes that you associate with that emotion, and then figure out how. Go. Oh my goodness. Sorry about that. And then do a portrait of just the eyes, where you're using those shapes either on the inside, maybe they're radiating outside. My extra challenge with this would be perhaps add a face mask underneath it, because I think doing a portrait of the eyes right now is even more timely, because when we're interacting with each other, we can't read the rest of the face. You can only see people's eyes. So here's definitely a little Artner challenge for you, pandemic inspired. Another, and finally, just a couple things. Oh, and if you do that exercise, take photo reference of yourself, so that way you can sort of act with your eyes and really like amplify the emotion and almost like exaggerate it. So yeah, use yourself as a model or a friend.